times we think, well, let's do this petition, let's change the laws, and if we change the laws, that would fix things. Because we know from American history, we used to have child labor here, and then we made the child labor laws, and that changed things, and it fixed things, and now we don't have children working in sweatshops in our country. But unfortunately, that doesn't mean the clothes that we're wearing are not made by a child working in a sweatshop in another country. And so how do we fix that problem? Well, I had some thoughts about that, and then when I lived in Bangladesh, one of the first sweatshop scandals came out. It was with Kathie Gifford, which I know is dating me because that was way back in the 90s, but she was one of the first people this ever happened to. Someone discovered that her clothes were getting made in sweatshops overseas, and it was a big scandal, and people were so upset about it, and Kathie Gifford was so shocked because she had no idea, and blah, blah, blah. So they started making these laws, and they supposedly changed all these things, and they thought we fixed this problem. Well, being on that side of the world, I found out that what really happened was, yes, the sweatshops were employing children. Well, then when they changed the laws, those kids had been working at the sweatshops to help feed their families. And now that the law said under this age wasn't allowed to come in, now the families were actually having to bribe the sweatshop owners to get their kids in to work illegally to help feed their families. So instead of making it better for that family or even that child, it made it worse for that family and for that child, because they still continued working, but now they were getting paid less, or they were getting treated less well. It messed up the system instead of helping the system. And it really shook me up, because it made me realize that sometimes our solutions don't translate into other cultures and other situations. So what do? I'm not totally sure, but what I have learned is that don't always jump on every idea there is to have. Another situation that really showed me that was when I lived in Uganda. When I first got there, I got to Kampala, and I was totally amazed at the lack of street kids. In Bangladesh, there's street kids everywhere. You'd go to the store and just be swamped by them, and they'd follow you around, and it was totally heartbreaking. And in other places I've lived, it's, been bad. Well, no, that's not true. Bangladesh was the one place where it's really bad. But when I got to Uganda, there weren't. I didn't see them, and I was really surprised, and I asked somebody about it, and they said what had happened was this group had come out, great intentions, really nice people from the West, and they saw the street kid problem in the city of Kampala, and they decided to fix it by doing a day club, like a kids club. And so they were going to let the street kids come and feed them one meal a day and probably help them with some other things. And that was a great idea. The problem was, people in the villages heard about it, and they started sending their kids to the city to be street kids so they could get the free meal and get the whatever. And they were actually making the street kid problem worse. Well, when the Ugandan government found out about it, they said, this isn't helping us, this is hurting us. So they sent the nice group with their good intentions away, and all the kids that were in the street, they took them back to the villages they came from, back to their families, and the real street kids, they found out what villages they originally came from, and they took them back and found homes for them as well, which was fantastic. It was a great thing for them to do. But it just reminded me again that sometimes our solutions actually cause more problems. So when we're thinking about trafficking, when we're thinking about exploitation, and these thoughts come to our mind, well, this worked here, let's try this here, here's this idea. We need to be very cautious and search things out. And the best thing that we can do is find somebody in that setting, particularly in that culture, that knows the people who would understand best what would work. You've got status, you've got tiers of different types of people and the power involved, and with the system that's based on corruption a lot of times, making rules, all it does is shift the chain of command, and it doesn't actually help any of the people down below. So if you can get in touch with a group or a person that's doing it in country, in that culture, effectively, then they have learned what works and what doesn't, and those are the best people to probably support and be involved with them.